How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to take a look at VRF Lite. Now, if you've never heard of VRF Lite, but you've heard of VRF when it comes to MPLS, kind of the same thing. The main sticking point is when you're dealing with VRFs with MPLS, you're dealing with VRFs on the provider edge router, which is the VRF is basically a virtual routing and forwarding table. That's what it stands for. And basically what that does is it allows you to separate customer traffic based on a VRF. So basically what you're doing is you're taking, say, 10, 12, 14 customers, and you're creating a VRF per customer, and you're able to go in and put the customer into that VRF and forward it. Now, when you're dealing with VRFs and you're not dealing with MPLS, because you don't have to use one, they're interchangeable, which means you can run VRFs without running MPLS, and you could also run MPLS without VRFs. So they're completely, they're mutually exclusive, meaning you don't have to have one in order to run the other. It's not like when you're dealing with, say, what's the word I'm looking for? Inter-VLAN routing, where you have to have an encapsulation set up on the interface to match the traffic that's coming from the switch if you're doing inter-VLAN routing. So you don't have to use VRFs if you don't want to. Now, in this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be separating two different routing tables from each other on the same router, on the same interface. So what I've done is I've already got router 1 and router 2 configured. I'm going to run with you through router 3's configuration. And VRF Lite is relatively straightforward. It did take me some time to really get the grasp of what was going on with VRF Lite, but after I got it, I was like, oh, this is easy. Now, it will be easy. It's when you get into the VRF, inter-VRF routing, and you get more complex, stuff like that, that's going to be pretty much outside of the scope for us. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over Google Chrome. I'm going to show you a quick, it's an introduction to VRF Lite, which actually is what I was just looking up before I started this video up. And basically what this is, if you go to packetlife.net/blog, and actually I just did a quick Google search, I said VRF Lite, and this is one of the top hits. So basically what we're going to do with VRF Lite is it allows you to separate the routing tables into separate virtual instances. So if you're familiar with virtualization, say VMware, Hyper-V, VMware Workstation, things like that, what you're actually able to do is you're able to create a virtual routing and forwarding instance, which is again what VRF stands for. And what you're doing is you're putting an interface in that VRF and putting another interface somewhere else on that router in a VRF so that they can forward traffic. Now, when we get into much more complicated MPLS designs later on in upcoming videos that I'm working on, because I'm revamping the way that I'm doing things, and I'm trying to get away from the dedicated series section and trying to just throw stuff randomly in there and test things that I'm not as strong in. But the idea behind this, now I don't know if you can tell this or not, but let me blow this up just a little bit for you. We have blue lines here and a red line here. So we have two blue and one red on each switch. So basically what's going to end up happening is we are going to virtually separate the routing tables on router 2, 3, and 1, so that when we get to router 3 in our case, there's going to be a loopback that's going to be able to be routed inside of VRF red, and a loopback that's going to be routed inside of VRF blue, which is going to allow us to get from router 1 to router 3. Now, the idea behind this example here is you have corporate internet access, which is going to be the blue VLAN. So if anything that's in the blue VLAN, you're going to go on a per hop basis, and you're going to put whatever interfaces you want in that VRF to forward corporate traffic. You're going to put those interfaces in that VRF. That's the main sticking point with VRF Lite, though. In order to maintain the separation of routing tables, you need to have, when you're dealing with VRF Lite, every router has to be running VRF Lite. Because once you leave and you hit this router up here, as long as it's listening for the traffic that's coming in here, it's going to receive it even if router 1 doesn't have a VRF configured. because it doesn't know any better. VRFs are locally significant to the router. That meaning, if you, for instance, are doing, where was I going with that? Just lost my train of thought. It's like a OSPF process number. It's locally significant to the router. The area is significant to all the routers that you want to run in that area. The process ID is locally significant, just like the router ID is locally significant. So, now in this example here, you can have it set up to where R2 sends traffic to R1 via fast1/0, and that fast/10 has a subinterface 10 and subinterface 20 configured, and 10 is for the blue traffic and 20 is for the red traffic. And then you forward your traffic up here, and the red traffic goes left, goes up here, and your blue traffic comes up to R1 and breaks right and goes out towards the firewall. Valid solutions. Now, the drawback, like I've mentioned with VRF Lite, is you, in order to maintain the separation, you have to maintain VRFs from end to end through your network. Now, where MPLS comes into play, you don't have to do this. With MPLS, on the VRF, what you're going to do is you're going to take that VRF, because you're going to put the interface that's going to connect down to the customer edge is going to be in a VRF, which means that the routing protocol has to be VRF aware, which all routing protocols are VRF aware. All of them in IPv4 and most of them in IPv6. I think EIGRP and ISIS are not. Depending on what you're doing. Let me preface that. So when we get into, I think it's EIGRP IPv6 that is not compatible for MPLS. I'll talk about that in much more detail later on in an upcoming video. But basically what you're going to do, or what we're going to do in here, is we're going to forward traffic via the VRF. Now, going back to the MPLS thing, when you're dealing with MPLS, you have the interface, say fast2/0 is in VRF customer 1. So that could be the name of the VRF is customer 1. We'll type in, will be in 1:1. That'll be the VRF number. Or a VRF name will be customer 1. What's going to end up happening is you're going to redistribute from this interface here to this interface here. So fast1/0 on these guys could be running MPLS. So this internal section right here could be running MPLS, and that would be completely fine. That would totally work. Now what's going to end up happening is when you redistribute from here into here, assuming you're not using BGP on both sides, what's going to end up happening is you're going to take the route out of move the route from this interface to this interface. But the thing is here, you're going to place both interfaces inside the same VRF, so they know what to call for, and then you're going to MPLS label switch up to the next hop. Now we're going to talk about this in a lot more detail, like we did in the Advanced Technologies class. I'll go into a lot more detail once we actually get into this, because I have some pretty beefy scenarios I'm going to be coming up with, because I've pretty much finished with the technology videos, and I want to start doing a lot of hardcore labs. And I don't see a reason to keep going over IGPs. I'll do IPv6, OSPF, EIGRP, and whatnot, just so that I get familiar with OSPF v3. That'll be one of those things that I had to have running, just so that I get familiar with it again. Well, I get stronger, I should say. And then from there, we'll be worrying about MPLS, BGP, multicast, and that'll pretty much, and then DMVPN. Those are my weak areas, and then some things in security and some things in QoS. So we'll focus on those. So that's our main goal. So in case you were wondering what I'm doing or what I'm up to, this is more of a side technology look at it. So as you can tell, it doesn't actually break it down here, but what I'm actually going to run you through is a configuration of this, and it's a very, very simple topology. 3 routers, and that's all you need. Technically, you can do it with 2, but it sends a point home when you do 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab router 3, and I've just got a simple putty window pulled up here for it. Nothing fancy. I've turned on fast1/0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to type in VRF definition. Now, the main difference between this guy and VRF VRF is that when you're dealing with IPVRF, that is IPv4 only. So if you want to run dual stacked forwarding in VRF, you need to run VRF definition. Now that's what we're going to do here. We're going to type in VRF definition, and we're going to type in red. Okay. Now here's the kicker with this. There's not a ton of commands you can do in here, but however, what you can do and what you need to do when you're dealing with VRF definition, because you're going to be running two address family interfaces or instances, you need to go to address family and then enable the address family to be able to forward the traffic. If you don't turn on the address family IPv4, what's going to end up happening is when you go to set an IP address, it's not going to let you do it. So that's all you have to do. Now if we were to do IPv6, we'd be able to do that, but we actually have to exit out of here first. So I typed in address family, that guy. Those are my two choices, IPv4, IPv6. So we'll type in IPv4. What are our options? Well, we do have a few options in here, and we'll take a look at these a little bit later on. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail as to how this actually works. But you can set your import-export rules and stuff like that. But there's a little bit of detail in here that we'll take a look at just because of the fact that it's applicable in some regards. But that's pretty much it for that one. Now we have to go to, that was VRF red. Now we're going to type in VRF blue. And we're going to type in address family IPv4. That's all we have to do. Okay, that's all we did with this top one. That's all we have to do with the other one. So now we're going to do a exit out of here twice. We'll type in show run pipe section VRF and do show run, I should say. Might take a second for it to pop up. So this is what we have going on here. Now what we're going to do. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to say do show IP interface brief. We're going to go to interface fast 1/0.10. Type encapsulation .1q 10. Now here's the kicker. When you go to place an interface inside of another, move it from where it is by default, which is the technically VRF default, which is the global routing table that. Sorry. You guys didn't see that. I bumped a button on my other monitor. When you guys are going through CCNA and CCNP, you're not exposed to multiple routing tables. You're exposed to, like, I guess the best way to refer to a VRF is like when you're dealing with VLANs, where on a switch you can have every port on the switch in a different VLAN. So if you've got 24 ports on your switch, you have 24 VLANs, which at the same time you also have 24 MAC address tables and 24 spanning tree instances, one for every VLAN that's been created. That's why they call it per VLAN spanning tree. So we'll talk a lot more about some of the layer 2 stuff coming up, but I've spent so much time layer 2 to where whenever I take a CCIA lab, practice lab, even on the most complicated things, unless you're getting a really corner case, is when I had to actually think about what I'm doing, because I pretty much every day I'm on switches. So switching is very easy to me, but not everybody's like that. So when you're dealing with the encapsulation, or when you're taking an interface and you're going to put it into a VRF, so we'll type in VRF Forwarding. Now, if you were to type this in, VRF, and you only have one option. So VRF Forwarding is the command you're going to use, regardless if it's going to be for IPv4 only VRF, which is going to be the IPVRF, or if you're doing multi-address family, so VRF definition, we're going to run V4 and V6 at the same time. So it's going to be forwarding, and then what is the name of the VRF? And if you notice here, it gives you the two VRF names. In this case, for 10, we're going to use red, and we're going to type in RED and hit enter. Now, if there was an IP address configured here, it would actually remove the IP address, and you'd have to reapply it. So that's going to be a big kicker when you get down a little bit farther down the road. So we're going to type in IP address is going to be 10.1.23.3 24-bit mask, and then we're going to go to interface 20. Do this encapsulation is going to be 20, and we're going to type in VRF Forwarding is going to be blue, and hit enter. And then we're going to hit the up arrow, and we're going to type in 32.3. Now let me go pull up router 2 real quick, and we'll see, did I get the addressing? Okay, no, I didn't get the addressing right. So I have to go in here and actually do the back side of this. So I have to put fast 1/1 inside of the VRF. So you'll actually get to see me. I'll put the interface, the IP addresses on the interface, and you'll see what that looks like. So we're going to type in Oh, you know what? Oh yeah, we're good. Interface fast 1/1. I'm so used to .1q encapsulation down to a switch. We'll type in encapsulation .1. Did I turn it off? It's unassigned. Okay, exit out of here. Sorry. Interface fast 1/1 dot 10 encapsulation .1q 10. Now, what's going to be nice about this is it's going to be all in the same broadcast domain. So, essentially, you could just imagine 1 and 2 connecting down to a switch, and then 2 and 3 connecting down to a switch, and then 1, 2, and 3 connecting to the same switch, but they're all in the same VLAN. So, it's okay if we do it this way. We can go to another, we could use another .1q encapsulation. The encapsulation is pretty much arbitrary because of the fact that we have separation here, but I'm going to type an IP address. I'm going to type in 10.1.32.2 and 24-bit mask. So now what I'm going to type in is I'm going to say VRF Forwarding is going to be red. Now it's going to say it's going to remove the address. So if I was to type in do show run interface fast 1/1.10, there's no address there. So now all I have to do is copy and paste this bad boy down here, and then there it is. So I'm going to do the same thing for 20. And I'm going to type encapsulation.1q 20. I'll type in VRF Forwarding is going to be blue. And then the IP address is going to be... Oh, I goofed up. It's supposed to be the other way around. Sorry. Let me go jump into this guy. This is supposed to be 23.2, which is fine. I caught it when I did. So, good thing I did when I did. So, encapsulation.1q20, VRF forwarding blue. So now I can just focus on the IP address, which is going to be 32.2. Okay, so now if I was to jump out of here and type in show IP interface brief, the addresses show up in here, right? That's a good sign. Now if I was to show IP route, the only thing that's going to show up is nothing. The reason for that is because of the fact that they're in different routing tables. Now if I was to do a show IP route for VRF red, notice how these guys show up and it's fast. These guys. And if I was to do the same thing for blue, there they are. Now I'm going to go to the router 3 and do the exact same thing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's see, forwarding red 23.3, .1q10, blue 32.2. Perfect. Alright, so we're good there. So now what we're going to be able to do is jump out of here. Now, the main other thing to focus on here is we're going to be looking at dealing with what's the word I'm looking for? The show commands and stuff like that are going to be VRF specific. So if I want to type in ping VRF red 10.1.23.2, you have to preface which VRF to send the pings out. Because if I was just to type in ping this, it's going to die. It doesn't know where to send it. So you have to be specific with that. So now I'm going to type in VRF blue blue space, go to the end, we're going to say 32.2. And then we should get a response back in, which we do. So I wouldn't necessarily be worried about losing pings. It's GNS3, it's just a lab, I really don't care. So now that we've got this done, okay, we have our VRF routing and everything is good, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, we're going to start doing a little bit of, we're going to get some routing working here. So I want to be able to see the routes going back and forth here. Now, here's the kicker. We can start on router 1. And on router 1, I'm going to go to global config. I'm going to type in router Ospf, and then we're going to type in Ospf 1. And then, see this where it says VRF? If I go into router Ospf 1, that is a global routing table. So, that's fine if you want to route out another interface that's in the global routing table, but right now, if I wanted to go route for anything for 10.1.12 or 10.1.21, I wouldn't be able to do that under the global routing table because they're not in the global routing table. So I had to type in VRF, and then if I was to specify, I had to type in red and hit enter, and then I'm going to type in network is going to be 10.1.12.0 0.0.0.255 area 0, right? I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to type in do show run pipe section Ospf. Alright, so I'm going to copy this information over into router 2. Go to global config. I'm going to right click and paste this in, and momentarily here we should have an Ospf neighbor relationship pop up. What I'm going to do now is I'm also going to exit out of here and type in interface loopback 0, and type in VRF Forwarding. We're going to say red, and I'm going to type in IP address is going to be 10.1.1.1, or sorry, we'll type in 1.1.1.1, and we're going to do 32-bit mask. And there goes our neighbor adjacency. It does take a little bit of time in GNS3, so be patient with it. I actually did start to panic a little bit because it was taking a little longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. So now what we have to do is we have to go back to router Ospf 1 VRF red, and we have to type in we're going to type in network, and we're going to type in the 1.1.1.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. So now what's going to end up happening is we're going to be able to go over here to router this guy and type in show IP route. Nothing's there, right? Well, we're typing VRF red. We should have an Ospf route. We should have the one network. So that's good, right? We're getting up there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to on this guy we're going to type in interface loopback 100, and IP address is going to be 100.100. Well, it's 10.100.1 32-bit mask, and we'll advertise that into Ospf, but Ospf on the red side or the blue side. So now we're going to type in is VRF Forwarding is going to be blue. Now what's going to end up happening is the address is removed. So we're just going to copy and paste that guy back in. Now we're going to type in router Ospf 1 VRF blue, and do show run pipe section VRF. Do show run well, hold on a second. Let's show run. It's in there. VRF specified does not match existing router. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention this. You have to use a different process number. That's my bad. I forgot about that. That's why we do these labs, so that I actually completely forgot about that. That's my bad. So I'm actually undoing my button on my shirt sleeve here. It's getting a little warm in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. We're going to type in 2, and that'll take care of that. So type in network is going to be 10.1.0.0. Well, we'll type in, be specific, 21.0 0.0.255 area 0, right? And then we're also going to type in network is going to be 10.100.0.0 0.0.255 we'll just throw in a 1 0 and go to the end of the line here. 0.255 area 0. Alright, so that gets that going. So you need a different process number in order for that to work. I forgot about that. And then we're going to go over to router 2 and do the same thing. We're going to come up here, router Ospf 2 VRF blue, and type in network is going to be 10.1.21.0, and get that going so the process loads that way. And if I type in do show IP route VRF blue, we have the momentarily. There it goes. So we have the route in the routing table that's going to router 1's loopback. Now, mind you, these are completely different routing tables. So if I wanted to route, say for instance, to router 1's VRF red, I would have to do some sort of redistribution on router 1, and I don't think you can even do that. I think you'd have to go out to a switch and come back in, or run a crossover cable. We'll actually take a look at that here in just a second once I get router 3 and 2 operational. So on router 2, I'm going to do the exact same thing for red and blue, but I'm going to type in, well, since we're already here in blue, we're going to type in network is going to be 10.1.32.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. And what we're going to do then is we're going to type in, we're going to go to 1 and VRF red, and type in network is going to be 10.1.23.0, just like so. And then we're going to go to router 3, and we're going to jump up to global config and type in router Ospf 1 VRF red. Network is going to be 10.1.23.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. So momentarily we should get an Ospf adjacency. And then we're going to type in router Ospf 2 VRF blue, and type in network is going to be 10.1.32.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. So I'm being patient. There they go. There goes 32. 23 should come up here momentarily as well. What do we got going on here? Just show IP interface brief. Oh, there it goes. Again, I'm impatient. I'm like, okay, this should have come up by now. Alright, so now if we were to do on router 3, if we were to jump out here and do a show IP route, nothing's there. Right? We've established that probably 3-4 times now, right? Now, do you want to take this to the next level? Okay, no, obviously I can't see anybody, I'm recording, so I'm going to take this to the next level. So let's actually do this. We're going to type in interface fast 1/0. We'll type in IP address is going to be 10.123, or let's type in 1.123.1. Put it a 24-bit mask. It really doesn't matter. Type in router Ospf 3. Now, if we were to type in 1, it's going to let us do it. Now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? Well, I don't know. So let's actually run with it to see what actually happens. 10.1.123.0 0.0.0.255 area 0. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing on router 2. And we're going to go to global config, interface fast 1/0. IP address is going to be 10.1.123.2. 24-bit mask again. Type in router Ospf 1. Network is going to be 10.1.123.0. And let's see what happens. I'm curious. I don't think it's going to work because of the fact that we've already got that process number configured, but that process number is configured into a different routing table. Because this is the global routing table. Router Ospf 1 VRF red is a different routing table, and router Ospf 2 VRF blue is a different routing table. So I'm just curious to see what's actually going to work. And if it does, then we know the answer to that question. Now, generally speaking, I wouldn't do this simply for the fact of some of the issues that can pop up and bite you. So, then again, here I am, I'm a little bit worried. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not going to work. So, as we mentioned on router 3, well, we're waiting for that to come up. Let's just bring this guy up here. And if you guys want to keep your eyes down here, that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a show IP route for VRF red. And we're learning the 10.1.12 route in from router 2, and we're also learning the loop back in from router 1. So I'll do a trace route to this guy. I'd have no problem getting there. Or at least I don't think I'm going to have a problem getting there. Oh, you know what? Again, I should have taken my own advice. Trace route VRF red. Copy and paste, and then go. Wrong routing table. So again, your show commands and stuff like that should be specific to the VRF you're working with. Same thing with if I was to do blue. We were going to have the 10100 network in there, so do a trace VRF blue, and then this address. We get there no problem, right? That's a good sign. Now, I'm assuming it's not going to work because of the fact of what we have going on here. But what I'm going to do is on here, I'm going to type in Control A, no router Ospf 1. Type in router Ospf. Well, that wasn't supposed to. Okay, okay, that's fair. Let me plug that back in. Do show run pipe section Ospf. So now we know what happens if you plug into the same process number to different locations. So we're just going to copy and paste this information in. See, it actually did take the config, but because this guy here is in the global routing table, it can't do it. So we're just going to copy and paste this information back in, and we're going to right click and paste, and there it goes. So that should form pretty quick here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to type in on router 1 here, we're going to type in, let's go jump to this guy. We're going to type in no, I'm going to pull this network out, and we're going to type in router Ospf 3, and we're going to copy and paste that network in. Same thing over here, we're going to go to router Ospf 3, and right click and paste that network. So now we should be able to get an adjacency between 1 and 2, but through the global routing table. So let's see if that actually happens. And again, I always worry that it's not going to work. So just as a quick recap, we have 3 different routing tables working right now. We have the global routing table. Well, actually, we have 2 working. 2 of the 3 are operational. The first one is VRF red, which we were running the 10.1.12 network through between router 1 and 2. And then we're running VRF blue, which is 10.1.21.0. And that's going forward. We're attempting to get this guy operational on the global routing table, but it's just he's taking an abnormally long time to do that. So let's actually let's do a ping to 10.1.123.2. Let's do a do show IP interface brief. And alright, he's there. The address is right. So apparently that doesn't work. Now what happens if you were to redistribute between process 1 and process 2? Normally you would do that and you would get redistribution. So you would get routes to propagate. So let's do that. Let's type in router Ospf 1 VRF red. And we're going to type in redistribute Ospf 2 and subnets, right? VRF specified does not match this router. Okay. So we're going to... Oh, you know what? There's a keyword that I didn't grab. So Ospf 2 VRF blue. And actually we're in global config too, by the way, right? No. VRF blue. Yeah, it doesn't allow us to do... doesn't allow us. It does not allow us to do that. Now you might be thinking, okay, well wait a minute. You can do that when you're dealing with OSPF and you're dealing with that with MPLS. You are 100% correct, but you're doing that from a multi-protocol BGP to an OSPF VRF aware routing process. So you're coming from another protocol into OSPF. So apparently we have an issue there. So I don't want to dig too much into that one. I'm not sure exactly why, or if that's even capable of being done. Let's do a quick debug Ospf, or not debug Ospf v3. Debug Ip Ospf hello. And that should only do. It shouldn't do. Well, it does do both. Let's do a show IP Ospf neighbors. Let's see, debug IP Ospf packet. Let's see if there's anything specific that's coming from router 1 to router 2. As far as I'm aware, you can't do that. I was trying to just see if it would actually work, but apparently it does not. So that kind of makes sense, but then again, it kind of doesn't. To where you can be VLAN 1. So you would think it would work, but apparently it doesn't. But we're doing VRF routing. So if we were to go to router 3 and do a show IP route, we have that route in from router 1 and go to red. We don't have that route. But that effectively is, we'll see why it's not working here. Let's go to global config and type in no router Ospf 3. Maybe that'll fix that. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that one because it seems a little unique, and let's see why. Show IP Ospf neighbors. Let's see, no router Ospf 3. Let's just turn it off completely and then figure out why we can't get our routes to pop in here. Type in show. Let's jump out of here and do a show IP protocol, or not ports, prot. Did I turn Ospf off? Show run pipe section Ospf. That would explain why it's not working. VRF. Haha. There it is. Okay. Just learned something new. I didn't know they had their own dedicated setups. And 21 is down. Okay, so 21 was VRF blue. And there's 21. Is there a VRF? Show IP VRF. That's kind of funny. Red. Show IP Ospf. Oh, the process number. So let's type in 1 and then neighbor. I'm not sure why it's not working. But at least now you know how VRF Lite works. Again, VRF Lite, you have to have end-to-end reachability on a per hop basis in order for this to work. So now, let's say for instance that we have the connection. Let's see what router 2 can see. Can router 2 see anything? So I'll do a show IP route VRF red. All right, so we're still learning that in from that guy. What about blue? Alright, we're still learning something from blue, so it's not that's the issue. It's router, looks to be router 3. So show IP route VRF blue. Alright, we're still getting routes in for VRF blue. So what we want to do is we want to take this and we want to nix the VRF. So we want to go from VRF to non-VRF. Can we do that? And we should be able to. So let's actually take a look at that on router 2. So we're going to go to global config. And we're going to type in, that's going to be 1/1.20. Yeah, it's 21. Yeah. So we're still getting the routes in on router 3. That's a good sign. So that means that everything's still working. So, so what we're going to do on VRF2 is we're going to go to both of these interfaces. So 1/1.10 and 20. We're going to pull those out of the VRF. So we're typing show run interface fast 1/1.10 and 20. All right. So now the reason why we're doing this is because we're going to be pulling them out of the global out of the VRFs and putting them in the global routing table. So we're going to go to interface fast 1/1.10 and we're typing no and pull the VRF forwarding capability off and hit enter. And we're going to copy and paste the information back in. And the same thing with 20. And no. Alright, and then we're just going to copy and paste this information back in. Alright, so that does that. Now the adjacency goes down, and then what we're going to do is on router 3 we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to type in show run interface fast 1/0.10 and 20. Go to global config and interface fast 1/0.10 no and pull the VRF forwarding off and hit enter, and then we're just going to reapply the addressing. Now what I'm expecting to happen here, which I'm not sure if it's going to or not, because I'm putting the same interface on there, now routing is going to break because of the fact that we're not doing VRF specific Ospf. So we're going to type in interface fast 1/0.20 and pull this off of here. And reapply the IP address. And there we go. So now what we're going to do is on 2, we're going to go up here and we're going to say, we're going to exit out of here and type in router Ospf. We'll say 5. We'll type in network is going to be 10.1.0.0, 0.0.255.255, area 0. Now we should be, I'm hoping that we can redistribute from here into here and get the routes to propagate on 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on router 3, we're going to exit out of here, type in router Ospf 5, type in network is going to be 10.1.0.0, 0.0.255.255, area 0. And we should hopefully form a relationship on 2 and 3. And then I'm going to try to redistribute between the VRFs and Ospf. Alright, I had to respond to an email, so okay, unique router ID and cannot start. Oh, hey, how about that? So we have to give it a unique router ID. So we'll type in Ospf4 no router ID. So we'll type in Ospf router ID is going to be, we'll say is 2.2.2.2, or sorry, 3.3.3.3, and the router ID here is going to be 2.2.2.2.2, and there they go. So that goes, and all right, so that's a good sign. So that's why we lab, right? That's why we lab. So on router 2, we're going to type in, exit out of here, we'll type in router Ospf 1 VRF red, type in redistribute Ospf 5 subnets. Router VRF specified does not match this router. Do show run pipe section Ospf. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess that doesn't work. Can we bring... Or no, wait. Let's try to go to router Ospf 5 first and redistribute Ospf 1 VRF red. VRF specified does not match this router. Okay, I'm taking that as a indication that this is not supported. So let me pause the video and Google that. Well, apparently that is not a supported feature. You can't redistribute from Ospf to Ospf. You can redistribute from, say, multi-protocol BGP into Ospf, but you can't redistribute from Ospf to Ospf when it's a VRF. So you have to have some sort of loopback configured, go down to a switch and bring it back in, something like that. So, but anyway, that's just what I want to show you guys, so you guys can see VRF Lite and go from there. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.